very good evening. President of the Bar Association, Mr. Rajiv Amrasurya, Mr. Chatura Galhena, my apologies, Secretary of the Bar Association of Sri Lanka, Mr. Faiz Mustafa, President's Council, Senior Member, Executive Committee of the Bar Association of Sri Lanka, Chairperson of the Bar Association of Sri Lanka, Women Lawyers Committee, Madam Faiza Marka Mustafa, President's Council, Chairperson of the Bar Association of Sri Lanka, Gender Equality Committee, Madam Thushani Machado, esteemed speaker for this evening, Madam Ayomi Alavihara, other members of the Executive Committee, President's Council, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. I am Sachini Senuratna, attorney at law and committee member of the Bar Association of Sri Lanka's Women Lawyers Committee. It is my distinct pleasure and privilege to come here in our inaugural session today of a brand new initiative of the Bar Association of Sri Lanka Women Lawyers Committee, being the Women Lawyers Support Circle. This will be a continuing series providing support by means of sessions, conversations, discussions, mentorship, and peer support. To mark the beginning of today's event, I kindly request that you all rise for the national anthem. It is with great privilege that I welcome you to the inaugural session of the Women Lawyers Support Circle, an initiative of the BASL Women Lawyers Committee. The theme for this evening, Breaking Molds, Leadership Lessons for Women in Law, reflects our collective endeavor to challenge convention and reimagine the pathways to leadership within our profession. Today's session is, in fact, a reflection of the spirit and essence of this initiative, Women Lawyers Support Circle. The distinguished speaker initially scheduled for today's session, Ms. Yanina Veerasinghe, unfortunately fell ill this morning and had communicated to us that she would unfortunately not be able to attend this session today. In light of this, we are most grateful and extremely thankful for Madam Ayomi Alavihara, President Partner at FJ&G Serums, for accepting our request to step in and support this initiative, which she kindly agreed to. Thank you, Madam. We are grateful for your presence here today. The topic for today, Breaking Molds, Leadership Lessons for Women in Law, is not merely a conversation. It is a call for reflection and purposeful progress. As we engage with experiences of women in law, we aim to illuminate the challenges, amplify the contributions, and examine the future of leadership with sincerity and resolve. Let us now inaugurate our proceedings with the ceremonial lighting of the traditional oil lamp. May the light symbolize our collective pursuit of knowledge, guide our discussions, and also reinforce our dedication to progress and equity within the legal profession. I cordially invite the following distinguished guests for the lighting of the oil lamp. President of the Bar Association, Mr. Rajiv Amrasurya, Mr. Chatura Galhena, Secretary of the Bar Association of Sri Lanka, Mr. Faiz Mustafa, President's Council, Senior Member of the Executive Committee, Bar Association of Sri Lanka, Madam Faiza Marka Mustafa, President's Council, Chairperson of the BASL Women Lawyers Committee, Madam Thushani Machado, Chairperson of the Bar Association of Sri Lanka, Gender Equality Committee, Madam Ayomi Alavihara, esteemed speaker for this evening, and esteemed members of the Executive Committee. It is now my distinct pleasure to invite Madam Faiza Mustafa Marker, esteemed President's Council and Chairperson of the Bar Association of Sri Lanka Women Lawyers Committee, to deliver the welcome address. Her tireless efforts in promoting women in law have been instrumental in shaping this initiative, and we are honored to have her share our insights with us.
Good evening, everyone. Mr. Rajiv Amrasurya, President of the Bar Association of Sri Lanka, Chatura Dalhena, Secretary of the Bar Association, President's Council, distinguished guests, colleagues, lawyers, and law students. It is my privilege to welcome you to this special occasion, the inaugural session hosted by the Women Lawyers Committee of the Bar Association of Sri Lanka. Today, we gather to explore a vital and timely theme: navigating leadership, breaking barriers, and reimagining the role of women in the legal profession. Let me begin by acknowledging the pivotal role played by Mr. Rajiv Amarasurya, President of the Bar Association. Under his progressive leadership, the Bar has made meaningful strides in promoting gender equality and inclusion within our profession. His support has helped make initiatives like today's session a reality. Mr. President, thank you for your unwavering commitment to a more equitable legal community. As someone who spends much of my time in courtrooms where words are weighed and arguments are closely examined, it's a welcome shift to speak here where the focus is not on verdicts but on vision, not on winning cases but on building careers. And that, I believe, is a truly meaningful opportunity. On behalf of the Women Lawyers Committee of the Bar Association, I extend a warm welcome to each and every one of you. This session brings together two remarkable women who exemplify leadership and advocacy in our field. Our speaker, Ms. Ayomi Alihara, attorney at law, is a partner at FJ&J Deserams, where she leads the corporate and commercial practice with over 2 decades of experience. She was ranked Band 1 by Asia Law. She has also recognized as an elite practitioner by Asia Law and ranked Band 1 by Chambers Asia Pacific. She has also represented Sri Lanka at international legal forums, including the International Bar Association. Her career exemplifies leadership and vision. She stands as an inspiring role model for women in the legal profession. Our moderator, Rahana Farooq, attorney at law, is a committed legal practitioner whose work in social justice, women's rights, and child protection has made a lasting impact. Her insight into legal reform and human rights makes her the ideal guide for today's discussion. We can hold our heads high in the fact that two of our former Chief Justices are eminent lady jurists, and we can count on several lady lawyers who have excelled in their chosen careers. We are the beneficiaries of those efforts to break down barriers and shatter the glass ceiling. To be clear, this session is not about comparing career paths or asking why some lawyers don't choose litigation. Instead, it's about leadership. Wherever you are, whether you're in the corporate legal department, in private practice, in chambers, or considering your own startup, leadership matters. The goal today is to equip lawyers, particularly women, with tools and inspiration to lead with purpose, confidence, and clarity, regardless of the path they take. We are particularly encouraged by the participation of so many law students. You're not just the future of the profession, you're the ones who will reshape it. It is our responsibility to ensure the legal world you inherit is one where women are not only present, but respected as leaders, decision makers, and innovators. To the students and the young lawyers here, work hard, stay curious, question what doesn't feel fair, and above all, never underestimate your power, not only in courtrooms, but in your communities and across society. But please remember, law is not just a career. It's a calling to serve justice, to protect the vulnerable, to speak for those who cannot. It demands not only knowledge, but courage, empathy, and conviction. And it's through this lens that we must view our role, not just as lawyers, but as women and change makers. The law is more than a profession. It's a powerful platform for justice, equality, and transformation. Let's use today's session as a space to learn, to share, and to reimagine what's possible for women in law. I would also like to thank the male lawyers present here today, including my dad, for attending this inaugural session. Looking forward to your continued support. Thank you.
We extend our sincere gratitude to Madam Faiza Mustafa Marker, President's Counsel, and Chairperson of the BASL Women Lawyers Committee for her thoughtful and insightful welcome address. We are privileged to now invite Mr. Rajiv Amarasuriya, Attorney at Law, President of the Bar Association of Sri Lanka, who has been a steadfast advocate for gender equality and professional development, to address this gathering.
Secretary Bar Association, Mr. Chatur Galhena, Mr. Faiz Mustafa, President's Counsel, huge support to us at the Bar Association, being a senior executive committee member. Mrs. Ayomi Alivihara, thank you for accepting our invitation. Mrs. Faiza Marker, President's Counsel, Chairperson of the Women Lawyers Committee of the Bar Association, Ms. Tushani Machado, Chairman of the Gender Equality Committee, conveners, members of the committee, ladies and gentlemen. Today, is a historic moment for the Bar Association of Sri Lanka, because we commence this vital initiative of women lawyers support circle, of course, coupled with the discussion that will take place in a short while. I requested our Chief Executive Officer to provide me with the demographics of our membership. And the numbers she had just sent me, so we have 26,196 members in total in the Bar Association of Sri Lanka. And you might now wonder how this is how the numbers separate between male and female members. Actually, I was also a little surprised when I saw these figures, because we have 11,565 men and 14,631 women. So the women numbers have far outnumbered the men in the last couple of years. And if one simply looks at the law faculty, or law college, or the foreign universities, we have seen that trend now for several years. And now that has happened to our profession. And I say it's a positive thing. Things must change. Things must change for the better. And of course, we need to realign the way we do things. So that is why I said that today is a historic day. That is because this long-felt need of a women lawyers support circle, a support group, a strong pillar of the Bar Association that will help, will nurture, will develop women lawyers, and of course, be a helping hand when needed, is now being set up. So thank you very much to the committee led by Mrs. Faiza Marka Mustafa, President's Council, for this initiative. It is a long-felt need, and we have now achieved it. We speak of the junior members or the youngsters from the time we were small. When we were in school, we used to say, the children are the future. And when one speaks of the profession, the juniors are necessarily going to be the future of this profession. In fact, I was in New Delhi a couple of weeks back, and the terminology or the nomenclature, junior, is also now out of the picture, and it is emerging lawyers is what is spoken of the younger generation. We are the ones who will come and take over what the seniors do. And with technology, with AI and all of the support, it will be much sooner than later. So the Bar Association has a duty to support the younger members. Be it men or women, that support must be extended. And we are conscious of our duty in that respect. And we are trying to do whatever we can to address the needs of our young members. The young women lawyers also need support. Certainly the junior bar committees will look at support and help across the gender, the two genders. But the Women Lawyers Committee will do a little bit more. And that is what we expect and request the committee to look at. Parallelly, we also, for the first time in the history of the Bar Association, we set up a standing committee for gender equality. This probably should have been done when the numbers were the other way, but now the numbers also have changed. There is a need to look at, identify the reasons as to why we have not seen more women reaching the pinnacle, so to speak, of our legal profession. Certainly, we have had 2 Chief Justices, we have had an Attorney General, but we have not had a President of the Bar Association. We have, of course, the front row here, Iomi leading FJ&JD Serums. We have Faiza Marka Mustafa, President's Council, and so on. But there is a need to encourage more young women and women to stay in our profession, to stay in the practice and take up more roles. So that is why We thought of the Gender Equality Committee this year. I think it was belated on the part of the BSL, but now even late we still have it. And Tushani Machado has given us a plan, and we will hopefully soon implement that plan. Some speak of glass ceilings. Personally, I don't think there is a glass ceiling in our legal profession, up to discussion or my view. But there are various reasons why young women lawyers sometimes move out of the profession or sometimes have different priorities. It's obviously maybe for the conversation today or thereafter, but these are things we need to look at. We need to find what the problems are and provide solutions. So that is something I would request upon this committee and of course Gender Equality Committee to provide that space, that room for women lawyers to reach out. Sometimes it might be in confidence, sometimes it might be a general problem. But in addition to identifying the problems, it is vital that we find the solutions. And for that, the Bar Association, the leadership of the Bar Association is there, and we will work together to address those issues, concerns in our wider profession. And we must somehow address it in these 2 years. As I said, we are already late, but if we correct our ways in the next 2 years, I think then we can look at a more inclusive profession, which then would be looking at the future and what this country has to offer in the future. In that exercise, I would also request the committee to also look at this a little bit out of the box. There are many career options, even in our economy here, where the lawyers are not going into. The accountants, sometimes even the engineers, the IT experts are taking those places. And some of those would fit well with those with a legal mind. And that is also something which the committee can look at and help us in achieving that end. We are waiting a very interesting discussion. Just 2 more things before I conclude. I would also request both of your committees to create more opportunities like this. The BSL facilities are available. We will provide whatever we can. Please make use of this. And then we want to see more and more young lawyers, women and men, in the premises of the Bar Association. And also, though you are named the Women Lawyers Committee, that does not limit you to reach out and take on initiatives which benefit the entire community. So please take on something, but the leadership can be from here and help us in maybe, as they say, raising the bar to the next level. So thank you very much once again for your initiative. I know a lot of effort went in, and we look forward to a lot of good work to come out of both your committees the next 2 years. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Rajiv Amrasurya, President of the Bar Association, for your thought-provoking address. It is now my very esteemed privilege to introduce the distinguished speaker for today, Madam Ayomi Alvihara, Attorney at Law, President Partner of FJ and GD Serums, who needs absolutely no introduction owing to her trailblazing performance in the legal field, not only nationally, but also internationally. Madam Ayomi Alvihara, Attorney at Law, is a distinguished attorney at law, over 30 years of experience in the legal profession. Beginning her career as a litigator at the Attorney General's Department, she went on to pursue her master's in comparative law at the University of Delhi, specializing in corporate law. Today, she serves as a precedent partner at FJ and GD Serums, leading a dynamic team of over 50 lawyers, including 17 partners. As the head of the firm's corporate law practice, Madam Ayomi Alvihara has advised across diverse areas of corporate commercial law with a particular expertise in capital markets, infrastructure, banking, finance, and telecommunications. In addition to her legal practice, she is also an accredited mediator both locally and internationally, actively promoting the use of mediation in commercial dispute resolution. Beyond the profession, she contributes her leadership to several institutions, serving as a committee member of the Ceylon Chamber of Commerce and as a trustee of the Lionel Wendt Memorial Fund Trust, and also the National Trust of Sri Lanka. It is also my pleasure to introduce our most capable moderator, Ms. Rakna Farooq, attorney at law. Ms. Farooq holds an LLB with upper class second honors from the University of London and a master's in law with distinction in commercial law from UWE Bristol. She has honed her expertise in tax law and commercial law through her practice and also serves as a lecturer in company law at the International College of Legal Studies. Ms. Farooq brings nearly a decade of experience as a former English news anchor with Capital Maharaja Group, showcasing her exceptional communication skills. With a diverse background and expertise, I am of no doubt that she is well equipped to lead our discussion today. I now would like to invite our distinguished speaker, Madam Ayomi Alvihara, attorney at law, precedent partner at FJG and Serum, and our esteemed moderator, Ms. Rakna Farooq, attorney at law, to join us on stage to commence our inaugural session, Breaking Molds, Leadership Lessons for Women in Law.
A very good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and a very good evening to you, madam. Thank you for gracing the occasion today on such short notice and amidst your busy schedule. Right, so our theme for this evening is Breaking Molds, Leadership Lessons for Women in Law. Before we move into questions on leadership, madam, I want to go right to the very beginning of your journey. What first planted the seed of law in your mind? That urge that, I want to be a lawyer. If you could share that moment with us.
I wish I had a lovely, inspiring story, but I don't. I did my A-levels. I had a father who was a doctor, so wanted me to be a doctor. Didn't get the grades. I was floating around, and my friend said, law college exams are coming in 2 weeks. I have got all the notes. I'll help you. My grandfather's a lawyer, so I thought, law might be, okay profession to follow, and that's how I came here. So it was actually quite by accident, a lack of A-level marks to get into medicine. So that's how I got into law.
Thank you, madam, for your honesty. I think it's important that sometimes, although we do have objectives in life, sometimes taking a chance also matters, and it might lead you to the right goals. Moving on to the next question now on leadership. So what surprised you the most from being a lawyer to taking over and leading a team of lawyers? Is there anything that really surprised you when you had that shift? And if you could share maybe something in terms of leadership on that topic?
So when I started out as a young lawyer, I inherently liked the work. I like being able to sit, to do research, to understand a question and come up with an opinion. And in my later years, particularly at the firm, I had a lot of independence in actually formulating an opinion. I was also inherently hardworking and inherently somewhat of a perfectionist. So I did work hard. And then when I came into a leadership role, I was quite taken aback with the management that I had to do, and management mostly of people. And even to date, if I am asked, what do you prefer to do? Do you prefer to do your legal work or your management work, particularly managing the lawyers and the senior lawyers? I would always opt to work. It is by far the easier thing to do. And as you get more senior, particularly in a law firm, and this is possibly true even in other areas of the profession, you do have to deal with individuals and senior individuals, experienced professionals, which is tough, is how I would put it. It's a new learning. So I think that is what has surprised me the most. And I've been the senior partner for 10 years, or almost 10 years, and I'm still learning how to deal with professionals. At the firm, we have a culture of encouraging our professionals to build their own practice, to be individual professionals in their own right. So with that comes a certain confidence that lawyers have. And you have to encourage that, but also do it within an institutional framework. So that is quite challenging. And it was a surprise when I first started.
Thank you, madam. So you were talking about handling seniors. So that moves on to my next question, actually. Now, if you take a look at leadership over the years, in the past, it was very authoritative. It was all one-way communication, a bunch of rules. You have to obey the rules, no questions that you may ask. And if you take a look at today, with today's generation, they are very, open-minded. They're very upfront. They sometimes question everything or the directions given to them. So it's more a balance of being empathetic and also collaborative. So how is it to deal with the juniors that you have today, and what is leadership like in terms of the past and leadership today?
I agree with that analysis. When I joined the firm, my seniors were up there and I was right down at the bottom. We didn't really question our seniors, very hierarchical. But I think it's also a female or woman quality. Men and women have certain traits. I think it is a woman quality to be collaborative. And if I look at the male partners and the female partners, I see that it is easier for the women to collaborate. And speaking of the juniors are, and at the firm we have, from the time I joined to now, we have quite a flat structure. So I think that change reflects the change that is happening elsewhere, where you have your emerging professionals, as was mentioned by Rajiv. You have them questioning, you encourage them to be inquiring, to question you, and you have less of a role as someone who directs or dictates. So I think, yes, that change has taken place, and I think women are inherently, as I said, collaborators, and that's a plus point that women bring to the table. I mean, there are plus points that the men bring to the table, but this is a plus point that I think, as women bring to the table.
Thank you, madam. So if you could sit down with a room full of young women, which incidentally you are doing today, what are the top 3 leadership qualities you think they really need to build on if they do want to take on very senior decision-making roles in the future?
Okay, so the first isn't a leadership quality. The first, I would encourage any young lawyer to focus on becoming a specialist or a very good lawyer first. You need to lead, you need to be very good at your work, and I do believe that. And to lead over a period of time, you need to be a skillful lawyer first. And in this day, and we were just talking about it in the front seat, in this day and age of AI tools, ChatGPT 5, Copilot, there is a certain level of work that can be done. So you, if you are to be relevant, you need to be a specialist. So I would say, before thinking about leadership even, ensure that you have tools that make you a very good professional. And that, I think, in your first 15 years should be your one and only and sole focus. We are challenged now at the firm on how to train our lawyers, our young lawyers, so that they can very quickly become specialists. So I would strenuously urge and tell you to focus on that. Because without a skill set, you may not be as strong a leader as you would be if you had a skill set. Then secondly, I think I saw empathy in your questions. But more than empathy, as a leader, you have to identify a framework within which you can function and stick to it. I think that's quite difficult to do. And I am actually fortunate in that when I stepped into my leadership role, I had a framework of a law firm, and a law firm that is 180 years old. So setting that framework for yourself, and when I say framework, I'm talking about not really and not only values, but identify that this is the framework within which I will function as a leader. And you do need to stick to it somewhat. So that, I would say, is the second leadership quality. And the third is, I would say, don't look at male, female. Don't think I need my team with male colleagues, or I need my team with female colleagues. I think just be open-minded. At the firm, we are predominantly women. It's about 60-40. And I have found that the mixed teams are the best. But when it comes to your time to lead, it might be different. So, some level of open-mindedness that you should retain right throughout your professional career.
Thank you, madam. So you were speaking about skill sets. Taking into account skill set, does it mean that you have to be 100% ready sometimes to take on a role? Because I've noticed sometimes some women, they're reluctant to take on a position because they feel like they're not ready 100%. So have you said yes in instances to taking on something, and how have you navigated those moments of uncertainty?
Okay, I was never ready to take over the head at the law firm. It was never an ambition, nor was I ready. It was circumstance, really. There was a big gap between my senior and myself, and he came to retiring. My senior came to retiring age, and I got thrust into the position. And I think with any leader, I don't think you're 100% ever ready. But when you're in that position, you sort of find the skill set you need, and you find that, and there's another comment I want to make, but I'll make that later. You find the ability to take up the position that has been entrusted upon you. So I was never ready, but I had the support. So now I want to come to support. Right throughout my legal career, from the time that I was a young lawyer to now, I have support. And nurturing support, both in your personal life and in your professional life, is really important. So as a young mother, I had my mother-in-law who lived at home. I had a supporting partner who identified that I wanted to work. So you may not have all of this, but try to nurture some of it. Then I have a very close friend at the law firm who is also a partner. And I have built friendships in addition to professional relationships at the firm. And anyone who knows me knows I'm not a extrovert where I have these vast hundreds of friends, but I do have one or two friends, my nanny has been with me since my elder son, who is 27 this year, was 1. So I have nurtured some relationships that have supported my career. And as young professionals, I would encourage you to do that, whether you're male or female, it doesn't really matter, because you do need that support. So it's not directly related to the question you asked, but if I'm to reflect on a personal journey and I'm to think of what has actually helped me, I would say it is the support that has, in some way or the other, been right throughout, by my side, right throughout my career.
Thank you, madam. So the next question, and I think support is probably an answer to this question as well, but if you can maybe add on to it. So as a daughter, a wife, a mother, and a professional, a lot of people often ask, can a woman really have it all? So what does this mean to you personally?
When I was a young professional, I was a little obnoxious and I was a woman. So I thought, yes, I can have it all. But as I have grown, I've realized that, what does that mean? So you have to pick at any given time what is important to you. There was a time when my sons were young, when I really juggled with this as to whether I'm being a good mother, am I being a good professional, all questions that you have already faced or will face. And the questions change over time. But what I have learned is, and I think it's there later in your question, so I might be jumping with an answer. You actually shouldn't be too hard on yourself. You should really take a decision for the time. So there was a time where my children and my time at home was more important to me than being at work, though I very much wanted to work. So one thing I did to manage both of these is, my colleague and I, we spoke to our senior and we said, look, our children are very young. We'd like them to be close to us. Can we have a little space that can be a nursery? And he said, yes, as long as, because we were a male-dominated partnership at the time, he said, yes, as long as we don't have to do anything with the nursery, we can give you the space. So we got the space, a room at the firm, outside the main firm premises. We hired a teacher and a teacher care. And that nursery runs to date. Obviously, I don't manage it anymore. My colleague and I managed it when my son was 1, so now it's running for 26 years. But the lawyers who have children, they manage the nursery. So the point is that you have to find ways that you can, if you think your children are important at a particular time, where you can actually spend the time. So if you're more comfortable with them being closer to you, because you can go and maybe have lunch with them, then do that. It's up to you to fashion what suits you at a given time. Obviously, the nursery has no meaning to me now. So I now like to have time to pursue other interests I have. Like it was mentioned, National Trust, Lionel went. So those are interests I have now. And I find the time to, through supporting those initiatives, actually participate in things that interest me. I think I ran on a bit there.
That's totally okay, madam. So Mr. Rajiv Amasurya pointed out that a lot of women tend to switch professions. Do you believe it's because of the different roles that a woman plays in her life as a mother, as a daughter, and so on? And if that is the reason, what sort of institutional reforms need to be in place to better accommodate women?
Yes, I think even at the law firm, we have lawyers with us 3 to 5 years, and then they decide that a law firm practice is not for them, because a law firm practice is quite demanding. And so you asked me about the times. We do work into the night, and we do work on weekends. So I think in this era, there are lots of things that can be done. And from an infrastructure point of view, given that now working remotely is something very accepted, it's very doable with the IT infrastructure, and it's acceptable post-COVID. So that's perhaps one reform where part-time work or remote working is brought into organizations. Now at the firm, we are quite flexible. When colleagues want flexible arrangements, we do allow for it on a case-by-case basis. But perhaps a case-by-case basis is not good enough. And if you build on becoming an expert soon and quickly, then you can actually work remotely. So you can go to a business or a law firm or a chamber and say, look, I can commit in this manner. So remote working is just one example, but I think there are lots of thoughts where maybe you allow maternity leave and paternity leave so that there is no prejudice to a woman who must go on maternity leave. So there are lots of initiatives like that that can come from a sort of policy level, but on a smaller level, my chamber or my law firm, I think there's a lot we can do in allowing for and recognizing and welcoming even things like remote working.
Thank you, madam. You were saying that when you initially joined your chamber, it was male dominated. So, have you ever been placed in a situation where you were the only woman in the room and your voice was often sidelined? And if that was the case, how did you navigate that? And what advice do you have to the young women lawyers here today who would in the future walk into such spaces?
So yes, frequently, even now frequently, because the business world is largely, it's predominantly male. And when I was a young lawyer, I used to have some really naughty, badly behaved business clients and actually legal professionals who, when I walk into a room and I'm the only woman, will make some comment like, they are the tall ladies coming, or she's not in a sari today. They make comments like that, so then you want to crawl under your chair. What has helped me in good stead, and I keep coming back to this point because it is what has helped me, ability holds you in good stead. Because if you know your work and you're skillful and you're able, that holds you in good stead. Because even though you sometimes, in my younger days, if a male comment came like that, I'd honestly want to crawl under the chair and I'll feel very small and I'll sort of crouch myself and sit at the back. But as the work discussion kept going, I felt I sort of gained the confidence to speak out. And as you become more senior, you realize that ability really is what holds you in good stead. So I'm sorry that I keep making this point, but I do believe that if you focus on developing your skill set and quickly now, that it will hold you, whether you're a male or a woman. It doesn't matter, but for women in particular, it holds you in good stead.
Thank you, madam. Moving on to our next question. So, the legal profession can be extremely stressful. So, was there ever a moment that you felt like you wanted to give up? And in that moment, what motivated you to hold on?
Okay, so I didn't get so stressed that I wanted to give up law. But when I had my second child, though I didn't know what I wanted to do, I was told from the time I can remember that a woman must work. So I'm very grateful to my father for that a woman must work, a woman must be independent. So this thing that I must work was always there with me. But when I had my second child, I was feeling a little sort of not a good mother. So I had my second child, and before I went into maternity, I told my boss also that I may or may not come back because I feel I should be at home. And I went through 3 months of looking after a second child with the first child, and by the time I finished maternity leave, I was ready to come back to work. So it's not really that I thought of giving up work in the sense that the work became too stressful. I thought maybe I should take time off for a couple of years because I felt society also expected it from me. I had family members who said, oh, the child is alone at home with the maid sort of thing. So I felt maybe I should give that time. But 3 months at home, I was ready to come back. And even later, the weekends, those of you who have children already, how many of you have children already? Okay, when you have children, you will find these weekends where you're going for tennis practice, then it's another tuition class. You spend your whole weekend doing that. And you come to court or to work on a Monday and you're like, peace. So work does give you that. It does give you a nice balance. in addition to giving you financial independence and all, other positive things, it gives you it has given me a good balance.
Thank you, madam. So moving on to mentors. Now they say mentors can either make you or break you, and a good mentor can always change the trajectory of your career path. Who was that mentor for you, who not just gave you advice, but saw something in you and believed in you? And how does that really help a young woman lawyer entering the field to have a good mentor?
So my senior when I joined the firm was a Mr. Kadrugamu. I think, sir, you will know him. He was my mentor, and yes, he did make all the difference. Not so much on my legal training. He was a very rigorous, very strict professional, very able in his work. But he taught me things like ensure that you have, which is why he's been a great mentor. So a mentor is a person who teaches you life really. He taught me to, with my legal profession, to pursue, nurture other interests. Because he said, you don't really practice law in isolation. You have to see life around the matter that you're advising on. So he taught me that. Then he taught me also detachment. I came one morning, I was advising on a huge transaction, and I had made a mistake in an application to the central bank. I had missed a section and made a mistake, and I stood by his desk, and as I started to confess now, I started to cry. And I was in this teary voice saying, I was up the whole night, and sir, I have missed this section, and real drama. He waited till I calmed down, and then he said, no, we will redo the application. We did it, sent it, and at the end of the day, he called me and he said, don't go home and think about work. He said, and I was young at the time, but he said, as you practice, learn detachment. So you're not carrying these big transactions home with you into bed, thinking about it overnight. Don't do it. So it didn't really mean much to me then, but over time I learned detachment. So like that, I think a great mentor makes all the integrity. What I know of the legal practice, integrity of the firm, integrity of a profession, I have learned from him. So having a great mentor, having a mentor is a plus point. Having a great mentor will really shape you and how you practice your profession in a very positive way. So if mentors they're difficult to come by, as in you have to be lucky, I think. I was lucky. But if you have the opportunity to even say myself and my partners, and Rajiv, this is for you, we would be open to mentoring programs. For example, the University of Colombo has a mentoring program, but it's quite a short program. I mean, it doesn't mean that we can't also accommodate a second mentoring program. At least the partners of the law firm, and there are so many law firms, as you know. So I think if you can find a mentor, it really, really will help you with your professional development, your growth, and your personal development as a person.
Thank you, madam. That's something to think about. So we are down to our last question. I think we've been fully immersed in all what you've been saying, but we've come to the last question. If you could meet your younger self, the version of you that was just entering your first job, what's one story or lesson you wish she had known back then? And what message would you share today with the young women in our audience?
Okay, I touched on this before. You don't have to be a perfectionist. I thought I had to be a perfectionist. So when I was in the kitchen, I strove to be perfect there. Whatever I did, I wanted to do it with a certain standard of excellence. I don't think you have to do that. And now as a wiser self, I just let things go. So I think you need to, as I mentioned earlier, focus on excellence when it comes to your work now. But everything else, you can decide whether hire a maid. There's Uber today. We didn't have all of that. And anyway, I wouldn't have used Uber. I would have wanted to cook every bit of the food that I put on the table. Absurd. So don't strive to be a perfectionist in every sphere that a woman is expected to excel in. Just let one or two go. So that's really what I would say. I was such an intense person when I was younger, honestly, and you don't have to be that.
Thank you, madam, for keeping it extremely real and honest. Before we wind up, we now open the floor for questions. So the audience, it's now your chance to pose a question to our esteemed guest. Johanni, you could take the mic and maybe pass it to those.
Please raise your hands if you all have any questions for Madam.
No questions? I'm sure some of you are itching to ask a question, but I guess they need a moment to reflect on all what you've said, madam. So thank you so much for gracing today's event, for speaking with such candor and thoughtfulness and some thought-provoking answers. You spoke about not being a perfectionist, to be independent, and I think all these are things that we can reflect on, and it would definitely help us at some point in our career as well, going forward in the future. So thank you so much, madam, for gracing today's occasion. There is a question. Right.
Thank you, madam, for the wonderful session. My question is, when you mean a skill set to develop one, do you mean the arguing skills in a court or maybe writing motions? Like, what is there anything in particular?
Okay, so I can answer that from the type of work that I do. Now, one of the skills, okay, so research skills we all need. One of the things we need in the work we do, and I think it is so even if you're in court, is you need written skills, you need writing skills. So in this day and age of AI tools, you may not get the written skills that you need if you are to use the tools all the time. The tools are brilliant. Honestly, we don't need juniors anymore or emergent lawyers anymore because the product you get is really good. But you need to be writing, so you have to find a way in which you write. Then you also need to ensure that your understanding of the law, like your basic understanding, is extremely sound, which I assume you have. Then you have to build on it by actually working, by advising, by seeing how a section works, by seeing how a law works, by seeing how a section works, how it's applied. And the beauty of AI tools now is that you can very quickly see how something is done in other countries. And we frequently draw on the experience of other countries to understand and learn how a section works and how it has worked in other countries. So when I say, thirdly, it has taken me years to see how a power project would work, or see what the needs of a bank is. How does a bank work? Because without knowing that, you can't really advise. So it has taken me 30 years to see that. In your case, you can't wait 30 years. So one thing might be, and it's something that we are thinking of at the firm, is to get sector experience. You may not all be able to work in the sector, but if there is a particular sector, say sustainability, that interests you, then you need to focus on getting as much information you can on sustainability projects. How does the power project work? What are their legal issues? So you need to be reading and learning and picking that up, because you may not have, say, even 10 years. So the only way to get that information quickly is, if you can't see project after project after project, which is what I have done, you have to be interested enough to read and build that knowledge. So we are sending in our juniors into the sector on like a 3-month or 6 months secondment, depending on the areas of their interest, because we are trying to accelerate the learning. So that's an example, and if I conveyed the thinking, you can apply it into wherever you work.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Any more questions? If you do have the relevant skill set, how does one counter male chauvinism in the legal profession? For instance, when you go to court and then you make submissions in court, how do you make male lawyers, how do you make them have confidence in you? How do you make your senior have confidence in you if it's a male?
Yeah, so it's now the male lawyers, you should close your ears. Now, women have you have a certain skill set by being a woman alone. Okay, so I have noticed that when I speak to a board, they listen to me and they no longer want to counter me. That's the womanness I have. Male lawyers, are your ears closed? So, ability is one, ability is the other, and when I was young, I felt I had to be like a man to get the men to listen to me. So I was quite aggressive and, like I said, intense. Age, I really need that. I can be my normal woman self, and because ability is recognized over time, they do listen to you. And frequently I'm in a room with two male lawyer and Naomi. And when I say something, nobody says a word. But when the male lawyer, my senior, it's a lot of comment and countering. So you have to, I think it's experience that helps you. You identify that there's something about being a woman that is also an advantage. And I'm not sort of speaking of, you don't have to go into a boardroom and flirt. Please don't do that. I have never done that, right? But there is a certain respect. You know how same sex is comfortable? I'm most comfortable with my women friends. My guy colleagues are most comfortable with men. Opposite sex, there's an element of slight discomfort and also respect. So you have to be ridiculed. You have to get those comments. Unfortunately, the tall lawyer has walked in. You have to go through that, but with time you learn how to counter it. I don't know whether this answer helps you, but as a senior woman now, I find it to my advantage that I'm a woman when I walk into a room full of men. So that comes with ability first, because you can't be useless at your work. So confidence in your ability and the fact that you're a woman lawyer. Good question. Both questions were good.
Any more questions?
Hi, madam. How do you find the time to be a wife and time to be the preceding partner at JFJ Serums, madam? How do you find the time being a mom, a wife, and a partner?
With difficulty. I get it wrong frequently. It's a constant sort of balancing. But like I said, at different times, you give priority to different things. When my kids were younger, I had to give up certain interests and focus entirely on bringing my sons up. Sometimes, however much you want to be at home, you can't, because you either have a matter with a deadline or you have an issue at the firm that you have to be there to support. So you constantly get it wrong, but with experience again, it becomes easier. And I think things like don't be too intense, don't be support, prioritize, detach, all those points that I covered helped me, but I do get it wrong. And those closest to you are unfortunately those who are at the receiving end of you getting it wrong. So if you speak to my family or you speak to my closest colleagues, they'll know what I'm saying because they're at the receiving end of it. But if you have nurtured the relationships will support you. But I mean, if you were to ask me, is it possible to work at a firm and bring up children and have a family and pursue interests and I have many interests, not only the National Trust interests. So I would say yes.
Any more questions? I believe this brings us to the end of today's session, madam. So once again, madam, thank you so much for gracing today's event and for sharing the real and like giving us a real insight as to what the profession is like, for not sugarcoating anything and for speaking with utmost honesty. Thank you, madam. Sachini, over to you.
Thank you, Madam Ayumi Alvihara, for your absolutely profoundly insightful, thought-provoking remarks, which I'm sure have not only enriched our understanding of leadership in the legal profession, but also have brought a very timely and nuanced perspective to the critical topic of breaking molds, leadership lessons for women in law. Your expertise and experiences have definitely set a powerful example to us all. I most timely also believe that today was one of the best examples of women supporting women, where the initial speaker fell ill and Madam Ayumi Alvihara has stepped in her stead. And to Ms. Rakna Farooq, we extend our gratitude for your adept and skillful moderation. You expertly guided our discussion and fostered an absolutely productive exchange of ideas. We now invite the President of the Bar Association, Mr. Rajiv Amrasurya, to hand over a token of appreciation to Madam Ayomi Alvihara, Presiding Partner of FJ&GB Serums. I would also like to invite on stage our moderator for the day, Ms. Rakna Farooq, for her token, to receive her token of appreciation. Thank you, Madam and Ms. Rakna Farooq, for dedicating your time and effort on behalf of the Bar Association of Sri Lanka. To formally conclude this evening's proceedings, I now invite Ms. Andrea Vijaywansa, Attorney at Law, to deliver the concluding remarks and vote of thanks.
Good evening, everyone. It is my privilege to deliver the vote of thanks at the conclusion of this inauguration session of the Women's Lawyers Committee of the Bar Association of Sri Lanka. This evening has been both meaningful and inspiring, marking the beginning of an important initiative for women in our profession. First, we extend our deepest gratitude to Mr. Rajiv Amarsurya, the President of the Bar Association of Sri Lanka, for his gracious presence and continued support. And also to Ms. Chatura Galhena, the Secretary of the Bar Association of Sri Lanka, and also the members of the Executive Committee, the President Councils, the attorneys at law, and the distinguished guest who has joined with us here today. Our heartfelt thanks goes to Ms. Faiza Mustafa, President's Council, the Chairperson of the Women Lawyers Committee of the Bar Association of Sri Lanka, for her vision and leadership in bringing this initiative to life. We also extend our appreciation to Madam Tusangi Machado, the chairperson of the BASL Gender Equality Committee, for her support in strengthening this initiative. A special word of appreciation goes to Ms. Ayomi Aluihara, the president partner of FJ&G Deserum, for her keynote on leadership lessons for women in law. Madam, your practical insights, experiences, and thoughtful reflections on leadership and the role of women in the profession were truly engaging. Your words has given us a valuable guidance and inspiration. Finally, on behalf of the Women Lawyers Committee, I warmly thank you all participants and guests for attending today. Your presence and support has made this inauguration truly meaningful. Thank you all and have a wonderful evening.
On behalf of the Bar Association of Sri Lanka Women Lawyers Committee, we also extend our deepest appreciation to Mr. Rajiv Amarsurya, President of the Bar Association of Sri Lanka, Madam Faiza Mustafa Maka, President's Council, the co-chairperson, Mrs. Nirupa Serasinghe, Attorney at Law, our conveners, Mrs. Yohani Yogaraja, Attorney at Law, and Ms. Hana Hafiz, Attorney at Law, our keynote speaker and moderator, and all members of the organizing committee and volunteers, and most importantly, you, the participants, whose presence and engagement lend strength and purpose to this initiative. May this evening be the first of many dialogues in this journey towards equitable and empowered leadership within our profession. Thank you, and we all wish you a very pleasant evening ahead.